Hi, this is Rebecca from Grove Knits. Welcome to my channel if you're a first time viewer. This is a podcast where I just simply talk about my own knitting, the yarn that I've purchased or managed to obtain, and things that I'm actually wanting to cast on. So this is a knitting podcast, okay? And if you're coming back after having watched something else, thank you so much for joining me. It's great to actually have you here. So thank you very much. And today I'm going to be talking about, I haven't actually finished anything this week, but I have a fair bit that I've been knitting on. I've made some huge inroads into my summer souffle that I've been knitting on. A couple of other little things that I've been getting in the works and getting going. Some yarn that's come in, and we're going to talk about what I'm planning to actually cast on. So thank you very much for joining me, and here we go. Hopefully I don't forget to talk about anything I plan on talking about, because this is actually the second run through. The first one, for some reason, got no sound. So I have checked, sounds coming through this time. Wonderfully, my last recording, the dogs weren't bothering me. And right now I've got one just down there sitting up on his hind legs begging at me, and another one down here who's probably going to start knocking the camera soon. So let's just see how this goes. Okay, so what I've been knitting on. Now, my last recording was me going through my whole yarn stash and actually doing a big clean out. Anything that were only small or partial balls, I put into an sort of like an excess tub that's going to get crocheted up into a blanket for scraps. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with a scrap crocheted blanket, and I'll show you the progress I've made on it shortly. I promise you I reckon it's almost one of my favourite blankets. I love the look of it. But the main thing I've been knitting on this week has been my summer souffle. So this is the Summer Souffle by Laura Penrose, and I'm knitting this in cotton. Which way? This way. Get the yarn out of the way. Oh, naturally I'm all tangled up now. Okay, so where I was last time was where this marker was. So I finished the body. I have done the ribbing. Now, I personally, especially on a summer top, I don't go down a needle size with my ribbing. I keep it at the same one because I actually don't like my ribbing to sort of suck it in. I am not in my 20s, my 30s, or even my 40s anymore, and I don't like things to sort of sit tight around my hip area. So I keep them on the same size needles, so it just sort of sits there relaxed. It's enough ribbing that it actually won't curl up, so it'll actually hang quite nicely. But yes, so that's on the same. So if you think it looks a little bit different, that's why. I've just not done it on a smaller needle. Now, the ruffle. I finally got the ruffle done. This ruffle, I think it might have been Wednesday night. It had been a long day at work. I was sitting in bed. I think I started the ruffle. I picked up the stitches for the ruffle. The pattern was ingenious for picking up the stitches. It had me do a purl row, and I've got to say, if I ever want to put ruffles on anything, I'm absolutely going to do that again, because you just simply put and knit through the purl bumps. Fantastic. So picked up all the ruffle. Then in order to get the ruffle, you've got to put on a lot of extra stitches. Now, let me tell you, casting off these stitches, I'm used to a cast off. I was expecting it to take me about an hour. It must have taken me three and a half hours to cast it off. It was a huge undertaking. I was exhausted and almost falling asleep. I was actually doing head nods as I was casting off, because I am not a person that can stop casting off halfway. Now, I know that that single stitch that's sitting on my right hand needle, I can simply pop it on my left hand needle and then put it all away. I know stitches aren't going to fall off. But there's something psychologically that won't let me stop casting off halfway through. So I had to finish it. Now, when you're at the end of that ruffling, we're talking about over 900 stitches, because that's how you get the ruffling. So it took a long time. And it wasn't just standard stitching, you know, knit it and then flick it on over to cast it off. You were coming in through the back loop. No, I wasn't going through. Yes, yeah, I was going through the back loop. So there was extra time that it took to actually knit. This was a long process. Looks fantastic, and I'm so happy for it. Would absolutely do it again, but I wouldn't start it at 10 o'clock at night on a work night because that was such a bad idea. All right, so ruffles done, one sleeve's done. I put about an extra inch on the sleeve to the pattern just to come over. So it'll pretty much come down to probably about here on me now. And I am on the last sleeve. I've done about an inch, so maybe about another 6 to 8 centimeters to go. And then I'll just do the rib and it's actually done. So this will likely be done this evening unless I get carried away with some of the stuff I'm about to start talking about. But no matter what, this will be done this weekend and it will be wearable for me next week at work. So I will likely have some photos ready for my podcast next week with me wearing this. So I'm actually really happy with how that's gone. A lot more progress than I was expecting because I had just expected to have the body done. I hadn't expected to get through the ruffle yet, nor the extra sleeve. Now, if you happen to watch my yarn haul, you'll have noticed that I put together a scrap bucket. And in that scrap bucket were all my smallish balls of yarn that I've used in other projects. That there's not really enough, there's definitely enough to do colour work and things with. But I've just put them all in one place regardless of their size, so that I've got them there for use. And I had cast on a crocheted blanket. Now this will be single bed size, and my intent is that this will be for Arlo, my grandson, who is almost 4 months old now. This will be for his bed for next winter, for his big bed. So this is all in wool, none of this is acrylic. And obviously if I go this way, it's going to be bed width. It's doubled over at the moment, but this is just so you can see the colours I've used. One colour per row is all I'm doing. I'm weaving in the ends or crocheting in the ends as I go. And I'm so impressed with how this has come up. So much so that I'm actually thinking I'm going to see more of these in my future. Such a great way to use up leftover yarn and such a beautiful, this is going to be such a heavy blanket, and being crochet and especially a reasonably tight crochet, nothing over tight, nothing too dense, but it's actually going to be dense enough that any pet claws, cats, dogs, whatever, aren't going to get caught in it. It's not going to have any thread pulls like my knitted blankets do that I've knit quite a few lap rugs and things for people. The last one being my temperature blanket for my husband. And already there's quite a few pet claw pulls in it that I've got to go through and fix. This is not going to have that same issue. Mind you, it wouldn't anyway because Arlo's actually allergic to both dogs and cats, so there's no dogs and cats in his house. So not such an issue for him. But even with his little fingers, he's not going to get any pulls on this. Again, I'm super excited about how this is crocheting up. Also, loving crocheting again. I haven't picked up a crochet hook for ages. I did learn about myself. I had gone out and bought a whole bunch of the fancy crochet hooks that have the ergonomic grip thing here. What I've learned about myself, I don't know if it's just the way that I crochet or just simply a habit thing. I had to go back to my trusty metal hook that my fingers can actually just slip through. I found I was actually starting to get a blister form with the silicone of the ergonomic grip. The way that I crochet, obviously my finger moves enough and quickly enough that it was actually forming a bit of a blister. Whereas just using one of these good old metal ones, I don't get that issue with. So yay for me, it's a much cheaper kind of hook. But mind you, I haven't had to, except for that one packet I bought of the ergonomic ones, haven't had to buy hooks. I don't think I've even ever bought hooks. I think they're all hand-me-downs from grandparents over the years. Anyway, so that's underway. That is sitting in this tub of those various bits of scrap yarn. Some of them aren't scrap yarn. This one I've got 2 other balls for, so this is definitely not scrap. This is going to go back into my normal stash, but I want to do 1 row in this blanket of this yarn because the Bendigo Woolen Mills tweed yarns, I've spoken about this before, they're amazingly soft and I just love them so much that I want to make sure I have at least a row of this particular yarn in there. Once I finish doing 1 row of a yarn, I'm actually transferring those ones that I've done into another bucket so I don't have any double up. Once I've gone through and finished all these, then I'm happy to go back through and do that doubling up process. Now, the only other thing I've been doing any kind of knitting or work on, and truly it is being very generous to say I've done some work on it because I've only done one row. I pulled this sock out today and knit one row. That's it. So it's all been about the summer souffle. I haven't made any movement on the Jones Cardi this week. So one row on this sock. I do want to do a lot more on this sock because I actually need to get the socks sorted out. And on socks, an update on those alpaca socks that I had knit and finished off a couple of weeks back. I've worn them twice in this week that we've just had. On the first wearing, the heel is already starting to felt, as was a small part of the actual foot. On the second wearing, the heel is definitely felted, as has the side of my foot, where it rubs the outside of my foot. So 2 wears only, and I've already got 2 sections that are felting. Now, so long as it is just felting in those heavy wear areas and not going to do anything else, that will be absolutely no issue. A bit of felting on the heel will actually be quite helpful for a sock because it will actually give me extra stability and that little bit of extra thickness, especially since I wear Doc Martens typically at school. So it gives me that bit of extra thickness where the heel sits and that little bit of extra cushioning. However, what worries me is no other knitted sock that I've done have I had this issue with so quickly, because I said it was showing straight after the first wear. Now, the one thing I was worried about with these alpaca socks was that they were going to keep on slipping down my foot. I haven't had that issue. They're still staying reasonably snug, but there is already, after 2 wears, a little bit of gaping on the leg. So it might be that the best type of patterns, I just knit a plain vanilla sock. Maybe the best type of patterns with this type of alpaca sock yarn would be something with some ribbing all the way through it. But I will post again in about a month and give an update on how these are actually holding up, because this was a bit of an experiment for me to see, firstly, how I went with alpaca socks. No issue at all on an itchiness front for me. Alpaca on the feet has been no dramas whatsoever. And then secondly, this idea around having an alpaca yarn for socks, because it just does not make sense in my head. And so far, it's a bit iffy because it's not holding up like it should do, but they're not just sort of dropping off my feet either, so we'll see how they go. So we'll keep you posted. Now for yarn acquisitions. I know I wasn't planning on initially actually buying any more yarn, and this isn't so much that. I have a Knit Crate subscription. Now, I used to subscribe to Knit Crate prior to COVID. So pre-COVID, I had a subscription that came. I would buy a mixture of the standard crate and the sock crate and just sort of change it out as I wanted to. I currently have just resubscribed to both the standard crate and the sock crate. And I just wanted to enjoy getting some new dyes coming through and some different yarns that I can't typically pick up in my local yarn store. So that's my reason for having the Knit Crate. Now, on top of that, I've actually done, they have what they call a double up option. So instead of just getting 2 skeins of yarn, I can opt in to get 4, and it's not double the price, it's actually at a discounted rate. So I've chosen to do the double up option purely so that I actually have enough yarn to make something with. So in the standard yarn, it means instead of getting 2 skeins, I'm going to get 4. And in the sock crate, when that comes, that hasn't arrived yet, instead of getting 1 skein, I'll actually get 2. So I'll typically have enough to do a shawl with out of the sock crate, and I'll definitely have enough to make a top with out of the standard yarns. I might need to make it a cropped t-shirt, or maybe add stripes to it, or think creatively, but I'll get enough to actually produce a garment with. Now, prior to me reorganizing my subscription with Knit Crate, I had hopped on and looked at my account, and because I had previously had that subscription, and because I had previously also bought subscriptions as gifts for a couple of other people, I had a really great amount of points sitting there. And I realized when I looked at my account that for absolutely zero cost, except for postage, which was $12, I could get a sample of yarn sent out that they call essentially like a lucky dip, where you buy 6 skeins of yarn and it was an X amount of dollars. But with my points, I actually got it completely for free. All I had to do was pay for postage. So I got 6 skeins of yarn for $12 essentially, because $12 is what the postage was. These are the 6 skeins of yarns that I got. So $12, which is just the postage, and this is what I got. And I'm absolutely here for it. I'm loving them, and I'll show you what they are. This first one is a sport weight. This is Vitalana Ascendance, and it is in the Vivid Blue colorway. And yes, she is definitely Vivid Blue. Now, what's really unusual about this one, I haven't seen this before, this is a chained ply, or almost like a knitted ply. It looks like someone has done a bit of French knitting. I thought initially it was that one where you essentially have that tubing and they blow the fibre into it, but it's not that at all. It's almost like it's knitted. Definitely feels more than a sport weight. I'm thinking this is going to be a fabulous hat. Definitely a wonderful blue, and this will definitely be a gift knit. I've got a colleague who at work who would like a beanie from me, and I'm actually thinking this would be a fabulous colour for that. This next one is another Vitalana, and this is called Tweedy Sheep, and the colourway is Pumpkin Spiced Everything. Now this is Aran weight, and this says that it is 90% wool, 10% Donegal nap. And you'll see here, lots of speckle through it, lots of nap through there. This is absolutely my kind of colours. I love oranges and browns and golds, all of those type of tones. So this will actually likely be something for me. We'll see what it becomes. This is, well, how many is it? 137 metres. Of course it is, because it's Aran weight. Now, while I may not have picked these myself because they are mystery lucky dip type things, so I got some alpaca. But we're going to see how we go, because this alpaca feels different too. Doesn't seem to have the spiky guard hairs that the alpaca from Bendigo Woolen Mill has. So we'll see how it goes. Vitalana Celestial. This is 90% alpaca and 10% tencel. Now, it's actually a tiny bit darker than it's coming up on the camera, but it is that type of toning in this colour. It's got the grey through it. It's almost like it's a dark peachy grey. And for 100 metres, this is again 137 metres. So this is Aran weight. Single skein. Not quite sure what I'm going to do with this. I am actually going to have a look at Ravelry and see what it would recommend for this type of yarn. It might be some good baby stuff. Then I've got this lovely single ply. Now this colour is, this one is a Vitalana Oasis. Colourway is Nevada, and it is 50% alpaca wool. Then there's a blend, 25% Peruvian Highland and Merino wool blended together. And then it's 25% Suri alpaca. Its colouring looks almost like, it's a little bit more brown than it's showing on the screen here. It almost looks like the colour of a natural yak with the speckles through it. And the speckles predominantly are all teal. They're like teal speckling through there. And within some of it, when you delve into this yarn, some of the speckling looks a little bit maroon with the teal parts as well. So, but it's the majority of the speckling coming through is actually that teal speckling. Now, I'm really in love with this colour. So I want to actually use this for something for me. Nervous about the amount of alpaca, but we'll see how it goes. If it turns out that it still causes me my alpaca drama llama, I will then turn this into something for a gift knit. And then I have 2 skeins of this one. Now, I love my greys and my neutrals. This is truly divine. It's coming across on camera pretty much as the colour actually is. So soft. Amazingly soft. And this is Ordine Wools in the Harmony range. The colourway is Rhythm and Blues. And this is a worsted weight. So this one is giving me 137 metres. So it's actually the same as the Aran weight. I don't know why they're calling one worsted and one Aran. It's the same thing. This is 41% wool, 26% alpaca, 23% tencel, and 10% baby camel. That's what it is for me. I love the feel of that little bit of camel fibre. Mind you, 10%. Surely I can't feel it that much. Anyway, so two skeins of this. So this is actually enough for me to do something with. So that was the 6 skeins that I got essentially for free. I just paid the $12 postage. Excuse me for a sec. This was the card that it came with. So it is Glass Future. And these were your colour choices. Okay. So they're obviously going to be self-striping, presumably. Essentially an aqua and white, a pink and white, and I think it might be a purpley or a grey and white. That would have been my preferred colourway, by the way. Here it is. I got 4 skeins of the aqua and white. So while these aren't colours that I'm in love with, I will absolutely use these. They are cotton, which is fantastic considering that we're on our 2nd day of spring now here in Australia, 2nd September, because we actually changed from the 1st of September. So as spring coming into summer, I'm definitely going to want my cotton tops. I had planned to knit quite a few cotton tops last season and never got around to it. So I've made sure with the summer souffle, there's a few other planned cast-ons that I've got in cotton. So these will absolutely be used that way. So this is Uru yarn in the Cotton Basic, and the colourway is called Reflection. So this is a DK weight. It's 100% organic Pima cotton, P-I-M-A. So I don't know if it's Pima or Pima. I apologise if I'm pronouncing it incorrectly. And this is 251 metres to a skein. So I've got basically 1,000 metres. More than enough to make a top out of, which is fantastic. So 4 skeins of this. While they're not colours I would have naturally chosen for myself, I can live on the edge here and knit myself a top out of this. My only worry is that it's obviously going to be self-striping. And these aren't necessarily colours I would want to stripe together for myself, but we'll see how it goes. I will knit my top out of it. Worst case scenario, if I truly don't like it, I can just simply gift it to someone else who will actually wear it. So I have those options. It's fine. It's all about the process knitting for me anyway. I enjoy the process of the knit. So this will be turning into a cotton top. Now for what I actually want to get cast on this weekend. If you watched my previous video, you'll have seen that I cleaned up all my yarn. Now, one of the things that I did, one of the reasons I did that for, apart from cleaning up everything and getting organised, was to actually revisit what I've actually got and start to make some plans for what I can get done and what I can use from my knitting projects. I've got quite a few ideas of things that I actually want to get together and get sorted. One of them is going to be involving these 3 balls of this New Zealand merino that I had bought. I'll be using that for essentially like a shrug, a shawl kind of thing. One of the Hohi patterns actually. I also have a few other knits here for me beside. Now, one of the things I actually want to get cast on, I plan to cast on this weekend. I often wear, especially if I wear a dress to work, a bolero style jacket. So no buttons, essentially like a short cardi. It's cropped, short sleeves, doesn't join up in the middle, it just sort of sits down across here. And it's just about keeping your shoulders and your back warm when you're wearing a dress or a high-waisted whatever, and you just need that extra bit of warmth. What's always blown my mind that I wear the absolute life out of this bolero, and I've never knit myself another one. So I truly need some more. So the bolero that I actually want to cast on a knit is the Confidette by Tasha Moss, and this is it here. So I love the simplicity of it. It is really nice and simple. It's a beautiful pattern. Appears to have great instructions. I'll figure that out as I'm knitting along. I was initially going to be casting on a bolero jacket style pattern by Amber O'Brien. I'll pop it up here so you can see that one. Love this one as well. Especially love that Amber used to be a relatively local designer to me. She lived in Castlemaine. So I like the idea of using local yarns and a local designer and actually knitting up that way. However, while I was about to cast on that one, as soon as I saw this one, this is actually exactly what I was after. Whereas the one that I was going to cast on was just about there, so close, but this is exactly it. This is exactly what I've been after. So looking forward to actually casting that on this weekend, and I'll wear the life out of one of these. I'll possibly end up doing a few of them because I actually wear these a fair bit. The other thing I actually want to get organised to cast on, not necessarily cast on this weekend, but get the yarn together, get it bagged up, get it all ready to go, is another cardigan again. And this one is a free pattern by Esparce Strico. I'm after a nice, relatively bulky, but not too bulky cardigan that has stripes. Now there are 3 that I'm actually having a look at the moment. This one by Esparce Strico. Another one that's quite similar to this by Isabel Kramer. And then there's the Andrea Mowry one, which is a much broader stripe that I like the look of as well. Can't think of what the pattern's called. I'll pop a picture up here of it though. So I'm deciding between those 3. I have the yarn for it. This I think is in 4-ply. I've got 2 balls of this same grey, this same silver, in 8-ply/DK. So I'd be using that as my base. So instead of having a beige base, it's likely to have that silver base. So yeah, I need to figure out which one I want to go with and get that organised to cast on. I then want to pull the yarn together and get organised to cast on, not necessarily cast on, a new vest for my husband. I'm wanting something that's quite business-like looking for him for school. I've knit him a few vests recently that are wonderful, absolutely wonderful for around the house, but don't quite have the look that we're going for him to wear either to school or out. He's happy to wear them. I'd rather him have something from me that looks a bit more, it's not quite the word I'm after, but almost shop made. So this particular pattern by Church Mouse, I think fits that bill. It looks absolutely gorgeous on. Nice tight gauge, so this will take some time, and I'll probably do it in a dark colour as well. So it's going to take extra long to knit because my eyes are over 50 years old and I need extra light working with dark colours nowadays. So that will take some time instead of being a quick knit, but I want to get something together in this realm. Another thing I've been wanting to cast on is these free patterns, the Year of Hats. I actually want to go through them, actually start doing some of them. So this particular one here, hopefully you can see the pattern here okay. If I notice that you can't when I'm doing the editing, I'll pop a fresh picture of it up here. If you can see that fine, then I won't need to do that. I'm thinking I actually want to cast this on and start pulling this one together. I really like the look of it. Nice and simple, beautiful stitch detail going through it on the angle. So I need to get a few different hats cast on and ready to travel with me for those simple knittings. Going down to Southern Victoria this weekend to help look after Arlo at my daughter's place. So I really want to take some knits with me that I don't need to use excess brain power with, especially if we're going to be up at 2 AM with feeds and that type of thing to give a hand. So nice simple knits will be some great things to take with me. Now, the next thing I actually want to get ready to cast on is Stephen West has a make-along that starts at the beginning of October. Today is September 2nd. On September 3rd at 4 PM Amsterdam time, he is releasing his kits and his pattern for the Twist and Turn Shawl Make-Along. Now, I actually want to participate in this one. I'm going to frog that shawl that I just started. I'd done about this much of one of his other patterns. So he releases his kit at 4 p.m. Amsterdam time on the 3rd. So I actually want to be on the website and grab one of those. I had a look at his YouTube channel last night, and his colour ranges, it looked like, I didn't count them up, but it looked like there must have been 50 different colour combinations with different yarn dyers. So I actually want to buy for the first time one of his kits. I haven't done it before. I think it's one of those once in a lifetime kind of things. Hopefully more often than that, but we'll see how it goes. There are some colour combinations there that I really love the look of. Some incredible brights, as well as some stunning neutrals with a single pop. What the requirements are 5 skeins, 2 the same, 2 the same, and then 1 single. The first 2 skeins and the second 2 skeins need to contrast really well with each other, and then you actually need to have a colour pop. So I'm thinking neutrals and then a nice bright pop. Maybe something in a nice blue or green or something at the moment. I'm really loving different greens at the moment. Browns and golds have been always more my colour, so something will actually contrast well with that. While I've knit quite a few of Stephen West's shawls previously, I haven't participated in one of his actual make-alongs. So I'm actually really looking forward to doing that. Between that shawl, which always uses a lot of brain power, and doing one of Hohi's ones with these beautiful New Zealand wools, I'll have my shawls covered off for the next month, 2 months kind of thing. And I think the make-along comes down in 4 clues. It might be 5, but I think it's 4. Starts from beginning of October, 1 each week. So by doing that order, hopefully tomorrow, but as soon as I figure out whatever 4 p.m. Amsterdam time is for us here, surely the kit should get to me within the month, and then I'll be right to get underway. So you'll see me progress through that knit as well. So that's pretty much my update. Thank you so much for actually joining me again. I'm really loving reading the comments and the bits and pieces that people are writing down below. So thank you again. I really appreciate you watching this video. Have a wonderful weekend and a fabulous week. And I will have a fair bit to actually talk about when I podcast again next week, because I should have a few cast-ons and things organised. So thank you again. Have a wonderful week. I'll talk to you later. I just wanted to quickly add that you're about to see some footage, if you wanted to stay on and watch it, of my last trip to Ballarat, just in case you want to see some of the country roads around Victoria. I'm in the passenger seat, so you'll actually see a little bit of me knitting while we're driving as well. But I do show you a little bit of the scenery around country Victoria. Essentially, we're driving from Bendigo to Ballarat, which is about a 2-hour drive. And it's through some incredibly small roads, great sheep grazing land. You will see a lot of the scenery, beautiful greeneries. You'll see some sheep and a lot of, unfortunately, single lane roads that we drive along. So if you enjoy watching, watch. If you don't, that's not a problem. Just finish watching now. Thank you.